Alright guys, today we're making tomato sauce. We're going to start with some tomatoes, we're going to get some peppers, we're going to get some garlic, 1 cup of chicken stock, 1.5 onions, and 4 strips of bacon. We're going to go ahead and dice this bacon up. Just keep all the strips together, it makes it easier. Doesn't need to be super fine because we're going to end up putting this in a pan and mixing it up with the immersion blender after. So go ahead and throw the bacon in the pan. Put it on the stove on a low to medium heat to let the fat render without burning the bacon. So next what we're going to do is we're going to take each one of our tomatoes, we're going to put a little slit through it. This is just to help the skin separate, and it makes it easier to break up, and it makes it easier to cut the skin in the blender later. Moving on to the onions, what we're going to do is we're going to cut the end of the onion off, not the core, because we want it to stick together when we cut it in half so that we can put some easy slits in it to separate it without cutting your hand off or, just having it spill all over the place. So go ahead, finish peeling your onion. What you're going to want to do, you're going to want to cut it in half, and then you're going to want to start putting some slits in it to help cut it up. So what I like to do is I like to put 2 slices towards the core horizontally, and then turn the onion, work away from the core, and start making your squares to dice up. So now just start chopping it up and do the same for the other 2. Using about half a head of garlic here, we're going to cut the end off the garlic. We're going to peel off a little bit. And then we're going to crush it with a knife. I would use more, but it's all I had on hand and I needed it for some other parts of the recipes. So once you have your smashed garlic, peel off the remaining amount of skin and dice it up. Doesn't have to be super fine. Again, it's all going to get mixed up with the immersion blender. Once that's all cut up, you can just throw it in a bowl and get ready to cut your peppers. So for the pepper, what you're going to want to do is just cut the head off of it and just pull the core out with the knife. This one was a little bit tricky to get out there. But once you pull the core out, just chop up the top of it and then cut the pepper into 2 pieces and cut it into strips and then dice it. Now that everything's all cut up, we can get started on cooking. So put some butter in the pan, mix it up a little. Make sure that your water is on high to start boiling. Take a look at that bacon. It's going to start getting crispy. Go ahead and add your peppers, onions, and garlic to the pan. Give it a nice little stir to mix the butter in so that it's evenly coated so everything will cook perfectly. Add about a tablespoon of ground pepper. I'd say about half a tablespoon or a tablespoon of full peppercorns and a tablespoon of salt. Stir that all up and get ready to drain the bacon. So drain your bacon into any glass container because it's hot and it will melt the plastic. Put it back on the stove and you can render it down a bit more. So now that the bacon's rendered down after a few minutes, we're going to take it over to the cutting board, we're going to dry it, and we're going to chop it up. So we're going to put it on some paper towel here just to absorb the oil so it doesn't soak into the board and it makes it a lot easier to cut. I find the easiest way to cut the bacon is to just work the knife across the board in a circular motion back and forth, and that gets it evenly broken up. The better you can break this up, the better it's going to mix into the sauce and it's going to absorb the flavor into the tomato. So now we're going to go ahead and add the bacon bits that we've just made into the vegetable mix on the stove, and we're going to mix that up a bit. So now go ahead, cover the saucepan and take your tomatoes and put them into the boiling water and cover them as well. We're going to let both of these pots sit for 10 minutes covered. So the tomatoes and the vegetables have been sitting there for 10 minutes sauteing. The vegetables look pretty good. Give them a stir and then take a look at your tomatoes to see if the skin is blistered and pulling away from the flesh. At that point, you know they're ready. Perfect. So I've gone ahead and strained the tomatoes. All we're going to do is just crush them up with a wooden spoon. And we're going to go ahead and add our pan full of veggies that we just cooked. 250 milliliters of chicken stock, 250 milliliters of water. This hot sauce, I don't know, this is a personal preference, but it's up to you. It's pretty fucking dangerous. Some fucking Worcestershire. 2 tablespoons of pre-cut garlic. The oil is great, it absorbs in. Some basil. Some rosemary. And some thyme. So now you can go ahead, stir this up, cover it, leave it on the element at medium temperature for half an hour. So now for the fun part. Half an hour has gone by, and we're just going to hit this with the immersion blender until we feel it's at the desired consistency. Some people like it chunkier, some people like it thinner. I'm a little bit in the middle, so I just kind of stop when it feels good, when it's smooth. We're going to put this back on the element uncovered for half an hour on a low simmer, and that's it. So here we have the finished sauce. Absolutely beautiful, perfect consistency. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoy, and I hope you can make this at home. Stay tuned for more videos where I put this to use.